Hello, dear listener. This is Cardiac Radio at 11 p.m. with the study of the book Harvest of Light. And you're invited to join us by following this study that is just like 9 days away. And this is the very book, Ceifa de Luz in Portuguese, in English, Harvest of Light. What a book! A book that Emmanuel, the spirit author, wrote through Chico Xavier, the amazing medium, in 1972, and the Brazilian Spiritist Federation published in 1979. What a book that is now available to us at Kardec Radio, fully translated, under revision, and available to you, right? And today we're studying chapter 55, In the Inner Refinement. Inner refinement. Do you think about the world and the needs of change? Yes, who doesn't, right? In Matthew chapter 24, we're going to find a moment in which the disciples looked at the temple of the Pharisees and said, Did you see? Did you see it, Master? And Jesus replied, One day there will be not even a stone to tell the story of this temple. And he said, What do you mean? When they sat at the Mount of Olives, they asked, What do you mean by it? And then he started explaining. And those are the verses that we hear when he talks about the coming of the false prophets, people who are going to claim to be the Messiah and to do marvelous things, and they were not, etc., etc., until he says, It will be good for that servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. That is verse 46. So it's very interesting for us that today we're going to talk about inner refinement. And Jesus talked about how an external temple would crumble up due to an inner disposition. How often in our lives things start to fall apart externally, and we ask, how come? But that's a sign that the inner is being called to the ultimate transformation. When the external in our lives gives a sign, a clear sign that it's changing, it's a call saying, look within and change as well. But what do we do? Out of not knowing, we do the opposite. In that book, 50 years later, Emmanuel is going to show the story of Celia, a Roman patrician girl who was expelled by her father without unfairly. And from there on, she read, since she embraced the Christian teachings, she understood that each challenge was an opportunity. She didn't read it as I'm being punished for something. How many of us read life's challenges as punishment? Karma? Not necessarily. It's a call to inner refinement. That's our introduction today, because I see many friends who are joining us. That's great. John the Rose is here. Hello, John the Rose. Dulce Story, Katia Yushkak, We have Carol Correa with us. Hello, Carol. We have Silvio Otero with us. Hello, Silvia. We have Alexandra Azevedo with us. Hello, Alexandra. Big hug to you. Elsa Leal, how are you, Elsa? Sunshine is here with us. Have you seen, friends? Mondays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Sunshine is leading us into the breakdown of Louise Hu book, Spiritism 101, the basics on Spiritism. Thank you, Sunshine, for bringing that to Kardec Radio, giving people an opportunity to study the foundation of Spiritism. Andrea Torres is with us. Hello, Andrea. Beautiful healing hug. And Valéria Benfica with us. Am I missing? Am I missing? I don't know. I see more people, but I'm not so sure if I can see their names. But if you type in, I will be able, okay, to say your name and to say hi to you. Why not? We want this personal feeling. It doesn't matter if there are 10,000 people or not. It matters that we feel we are in a classroom. It's precious. It's a sacred moment for us. Sacred because we want to invest our whole selves into this moment, right, Nora Brazil? Yes, we do. We want to invest 100% of ourselves. Celia Lancaster, I see Celia Lancaster with us. And when we do so, we maximize our absorption of it all. Are you ready? Emmanuel, in chapter 55 of the book Harvest of Light, Ceifa de Luz in Portuguese, titles this chapter In the Inner Refinement. He says, I see Rihanna is here with us, Patricia Guiri, welcome friends. In the inner refinement, it will be good for the servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. That comes from Jesus, as in Matthew chapter 24, verse 46. We sigh for personal refinement. However, in order to attain it, it is important not to forget the disciplines that precede the formation. In view of this, let us remember that the essence of education lies in the guidelines of superior life that we adopt for ourselves. Thus, the imposition of cultivating the following habits. The habit of being faithful to the fulfillment of our duties. The habit of doing the best we can in the field of action where life situates us. The habit of helping others without expecting any reward. The habit of perfecting the words that escape our mouth. The habit of excusing offenses unconditionally. The habit of seeking the best part of situations and people, forgetting whatever takes the form of calamity or shadow. The habit of seeking the good with the disposition of doing the good. The habit of never despairing. The habit of knowing that others, whoever they may be, are our brothers and sisters, children of God, constituting with us the family of humanity. For this, it is necessary to remember, above all, that the lever of the sustenance of noble habits that are in us are only worthy if managed by us. Emmanuel is always empowering us. Did you see? He never tells us, oh, your life is a problem because of your neighbor, because of God. because it's the way it is. He says, no, no. He's always telling us, come on, you can do it. You can manage it. Believe in yourself. That's a good affirmation. I believe in me. I believe in me. Let's repeat it. I believe in me. Is it hard? Oh, Vanessa, me, but I have problems. But think of you as a child of God. You believe in your divine essence. You're not living solo. God is sustaining you, sustaining us. So, what does that mean? That God counts on us to do our best. Let us manage it. Let's be accountable for the things we have received. Emmanuel is always giving us new strength. And he begins it by saying something that I question myself. When I read this first paragraph that I'm going to read it again to you, I asked, is that so? He says, we sigh for personal refinement. Do we? In Portuguese, huh? If you suspiramos por burilamento pessoal, we sigh for personal refinement. Do we? Do you dream of being better? Do you think people dream of being better? Not necessarily. But Emmanuel is saying, I think those who are reading this, they are coming close to this. They really dream of it. Not everybody does. It's not in their to-do list consciously. It's in our divine essence to refine ourselves, but not consciously. We want to be better. But to attain it, he says we need discipline. He summarizes the passage that became a main mark in Chico Xavier's mediumistic life when he was only 17. Only. And he said, Emmanuel, I would do, no, he didn't know the name Emmanuel. He talked to the spirit friend whom he was coming to know. Said, I would like to help people through this message of the spirits. What do I need to do? And he received the following reply. Discipline, discipline, discipline. We need discipline. We need order. Many people recently have been contacting us about the world's political conditions in Brazil, in the United States, in other countries. And then I say, it's very simple. Order. Like in the Brazilian flag, order and progress. That's where it begins, order. But inner. Inner. If I turn the TV and spend hours watching TV, there is no discipline. There is no discipline. Well, shouldn't we watch? I don't know. It's hard to believe that too many hours of television is going to bring something good for us. Unless we're watching a course. But soap operas and intrigues, political things, while people who have a hard time making their daily bread need us, and we're there seated doing nothing. No discipline. How am I going to better myself? Mentor Joseph always says, Vanessa, manage your time wisely. And once I asked, how do we do this? He says, whenever you have free time, ask yourself, how you should manage that free time to the benefit of all. Because if you're using the free time that you're given only for yourself, that's selfishness. But Vanessa, shouldn't I go to the gym, do my nails, or meet a friend and have some coffee? Or yes, but balance. So a good way to do it is using math. Sometimes we think we're helping so much, so many people. And one day he asked us at the Spirited side of Virginia, do the math. If you go, for example, to the Spirit Center twice a week and you count the time that you're really helping people, okay? The time that you're really helping people, let's say from 7 to 9. Really helping, huh? Not just there. Let's say 7 to 9. 7, okay? I have a calculator here. So let's do, because I forgot the number. 2 hours that day times 2 twice a week equals 4 per week. Times 4 weeks, 16 hours a month. Times 12, 192 hours. Okay, let me get a pen. 192 hours a year. Now, how many hours do we have in a year? Forgive me, huh? We have 24 times 7, 168 per week, times 4, 672 a month, times 12, 8,064 hours a year. Now, let's do the percentage. 192 divided by 8,064 hours. So we're talking about 2% of our time. So if you devote yourself to the good of others twice a week for 2 hours, really 2 hours, it's 2% of your year. And no wonder Emmanuel says we need not to forget our discipline. We can maximize our refinement. How? By making every hour useful through thoughts, feelings, words, actions. We can maximize it. You no longer depend on the physical body's presence somewhere else to maximize the refinement of myself by managing well my time and my vitality. So that's the exercise for the next 24 hours, okay? It's an exercise, a mathematical exercise. Think about how many hours you actually dedicate yourself to the general good. However you define it, it's on you. It's on you. And then do the math, write it down. And then we will understand why we needed to push. And as Emmanuel says, press on. Keep pressing on more and more and more and more and more. Okay? And that's why he says, so let us remember. So he talks about our willingness to refine. He uses the word refinement, discipline, education. And he says, the essence of education depends on the guidelines of superior life that we adopt. So sometimes I'm going to look at myself in the mirror and say, I'm not progressing. So I should ask, what are my principles that I have adopted? Because they are going to keep inspiring me to move to the next level. And he gives us a tip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 items. He says, you want to do it? He's a wonderful educator. He discloses it. Number 1, be faithful to perform your duties. But what is our duty? In the book Living Spring, chapter 58, which we read tonight in the God at Home, Carlos and I read it, chapter 58. Disciples. Emmanuel says that the conscious person has the duty towards themselves, those whom they love, and the universal family. That's our duty. So he says, be faithful to fulfilling your duties. 2, do the best we can in the field of action where life placed us. But often we do. And to do the best we can, we need to push our will. Book, Thought and Life. Chapter 2, Will. Our will. He has a heart on it. He says, the will is the enlightened and vigilant manager that supervises all sectors of our mental activities. So he says, we need to have goodwill to help others and to help and to do the best we can. Look how you wash the dishes, for example. Simple. Do you do like this? Or do we like, how interesting. Thank God I can wash the dishes and I'm not in a hospital or discarnated, wandering around, obsessing people. Thank God, right? Yes, Dulce is saying we can also use our time wisely in the intelligent sleep. Beautiful comment, Dulce. Yes, it's in the Spirit's book, chapter 8, part 2, Sleeping Dreams. Beautiful, beautiful. What is the intelligent sleep? When you are in the spiritual realm, you can manage yourself wisely. What do the spirits say? Come talk to us and get instructions. You're tired physically. Yes, cannot do much. Well, maximize your sleeping time. Says, oh dear God, tonight, allow me to take that course that I need and I don't have money to pay for the course, or I don't have time for it. Or for example, sometimes mothers are so tired, they want to read a lot of books and they can't. So can I go to a spiritual library and just sit there and read the books? If possible. Huh? 3, the habit. And he talks about habits. Look at this. Pause for a second and forgive me. But he says, refinement, discipline, education, guidelines, habits. To create a habit, I need an inner decision, effort, repetition, effort, repetition, effort, repetition. What do we do when we cannot make it happen? I say, yes, I can. Tell yourself, I'm not so sure if I'm going to make it. You have to do something. You don't find that initial strength. Say, I visualize myself doing it. Visualize yourself first. Like Rachmaninoff, the great composer and pianist who was depressed. And then a friend who was also a musician taught him about visualizations. He started visualizing himself composing and performing, conducting the whole orchestra of his symphony. One day, he built it up, and it makes sense because our physical brain needs to rehearse an action mentally before it creates the pathway and allows us to do it physically. So if physically I'm not doing that yet, visualize, breathe in and out, visualize yourself. Feel the smell. If you need to write something with a pen, visualize yourself holding a pen, touching the pen, listening to the noise of the pen on the paper, and you're writing successfully. The habit of helping others. Hold on a second, please, friends. The challenges of life. Thank you for waiting. I apologize. We're back. We're back and continuing. Emmanuel talks about habits and the habit of helping others without expecting anything. That's very difficult. And when we talk about helping others without anything in return, how do we do it? If you do anything by telling yourself, I'm not going to expect anything in return, it doesn't happen. It has to be a positive thing. How do we do it? By feeling pleasure in doing this. Mhm. By feeling the reward in the doing of it. I say, oh, it's so good to do this. No matter if people think, recognize, or anything else. You see, that's the secret of learning how to prevent something by doing something positive. When I tell myself, I'm not going to think about something, I already thought about it. Addictions in general. I'm not going to eat, but you're already talking about it. So instead, you substitute, as Joana de Angelis says, you substitute a bad thought and feeling by a good one. So it's a positive approach. The same for us. When we help others, we find a reward in ourselves by thank you, God, that I am useful. Thank you that you made me useful. And I don't expect anything in return. And then I keep going, no matter what people say. They like, they dislike. Doesn't matter. I keep going. I keep going because I do not expect anything in return. I see many groups who begin and end. People who start good actions and they stop because they were expecting something in return. That's not good. We need to do it for the pleasure of doing it. It's so good to be useful. It's so good to do the good. And they say, the habit of perfecting the words that come from our mouth. Visualize your mouth now. And the flow of ectoplasm coming out. Beautiful golden light. Expanding. Beautiful golden light. Beautiful golden light. Beautiful golden light that comes from our mouth. But we're not pretending. We mean the words. And then we have no space. And if we do, we forgive ourselves, begin anew, and continue the refinement. Creating the habit of perfecting. It's like a sculpture. Didn't we say yesterday that today the lesson is about inner sculpting? In your guardian angel, your protecting spirit, our protecting spirit, is the one that is leading this beautiful masterpiece in this life, or many lives, with us, supporting us, guiding us, educating us, and saying, come on, that edge, let's go. Oh, but it hurts. Well, it feels like it, but actually, you're looking so much prettier now without that edge that was a little rough. The chisel of the good actions refining us. Beautiful sculpture. The habit of excusing offenses unconditionally. But did he say offenses that come from others? Sometimes we feel offended by what we've done. You're like, oh my gosh. I remember one man, it was like 15 years ago. He said, oh my gosh, one day I was so angry. I kicked my dog. I spanked my dog. I cannot look at myself in the mirror. I could feel his pain. And it was hard, even for us, to process that action because the animal is defenseless. But then the mentor said, unconditional self-love and forgiveness. Sometimes we're so involved by the obsessors that they make us do crazy things that we will not approve of ourselves. And people quit their lives suicide. Or they quit the lives of many. They kill. And then tragedy. Unconditional self-compassion. Now, open a parenthesis here. Only humility leads us to do it. Without humility, we cannot do it. Humility allows us to forgive ourselves and others. When we take offense and we keep ourselves being hurt, the ego is over here. So we put it down. Humility saying, come on, you're not the king of the world, you're not the queen of the world. Well, people do what they gotta do and they did wrong, but it wasn't personal, it's just their way of keeping themselves doing what they wanna do. And if we did something wrong, we apologize to ourselves and forgive unconditionally. Only humility will give us that power of creating this habit, as Emmanuel says. And the habit of seeking the best part of situations and people, including in ourselves. Seeking the best, a habit. So we need to make an effort and repeat it. Make an effort, repeat it. Seek the good in all circumstances. Seek the good in all circumstances. Seek the good all the time. Have we been doing this? Seeking the good as a habit, he says, and doing the good. And never despairing. Never despairing. Never. Never, ever, ever. No matter what happens, we know God is watching over us and that we are not out on our own. God's providence. The book Genesis by Allan Kardec talks about divine providence. Divine providence, right? I've mentioned this in the past and I'll mention it again. The book, and I have here the book Genesis, and it talks about, because this book is the book that we're celebrating 150 years. So it says here, divine providence, as in the first chapter, the second chapter of the book Genesis, when it talks about God. That's precisely the chapter. And it's so beautiful because it tells us how much God loves us. It tells us precisely that God will never abandon us, will never let us to our own whims. There is a limit. So I'm opening here and allow me to read a little bit for you. Okay? May I? Just a second, please. I'm opening right here for us. It's about God. It says, let me read a little bit just to delight your heart. It talks about the divine nature, how good it is to feel God in his uniqueness and perfection. And it says, item 20, providence is God's care for all creatures. God is everywhere, sees everything, and presides over everything, even the very smallest things. This is what providential action consists of. How beautiful. How beautiful. he says this. He talks about the perispirit, and he says, to extend kindness over all creatures, God does not have to look down from the heights of the immensity to be heard by God. Our prayers do not have to cross through space, nor do they have to be spoken with a resounding voice, since God being constantly at our side, our thoughts resound within God. Our thoughts are like the sound of a bell, which makes all the molecules of the surrounding air vibrate. Hmm, what a beautiful concept of how it's so beautiful that it moves us to feel that we're so within God that we don't need to worry about it. So why despair? God knows what you're going through, but let's listen and feel the presence and the guidance. Let go of the old to allow your life to be adjusted, to let in the new. Let go of the old to let in the new. Knowing that others are our brothers and sisters, children of God, create that habit of telling ourselves, how can I say this thing or that thing about that person, or believe that they are evil because they are children of God? Everybody is. And he says, no matter what we do to sustain ourselves in noble habits, we need to depend on ourselves, to manage ourselves. Is it too hard? No. Because he's saying it doesn't depend on anybody but you, but me. Thank you, Emmanuel. How are we going to refine ourselves to create noble habits? Noble habits that depend on discipline, effort. That's what discipline is. Effort, repetition, effort, repetition, effort, repetition. Every day, all the time. Every day, all the time. How do we do it? By managing it by ourselves. Is that it? Yes, it is. Don't forget the exercise, the math. Look at the math. This is the math. Remember the noble habits in our lives? Write it down. Write it down and do some math to visualize it. Because sometimes we spend like an hour a year on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day giving food to people who are poor. And then the rest of the year, it's a ballroom of selfishness. We only think of ourselves and our loved ones. Okay, at least we began on Christmas Day, but we need to make Christmas every day. That's the goal of our reading refinement, to fulfill our duties for ourselves, our loved ones, and the universal family. Is that it? Yes, it is. Tomorrow, when we come back, if you think it's too hard, don't worry. Emmanuel knows that we would probably feel this way. And then he wrote chapter 56, which is titled Prayer. Yes, it is. Themes of prayer. He's saying, if you need to pray, to ask for strength, don't worry. We'll give you the themes that you can pray. Like if you can pray, okay, to know more, as long as you use it to help the ones who are around you. That's one of the themes. Okay, but that's gonna be tomorrow, because today we're just feeling the inner refinement. I believe in me. I believe in me. I believe in me. I believe in you. I believe in you because you're a child of God too. I believe in us and I believe in them, in everyone. We are all children of God. Aren't we? Yes, we are children of God. What an important feeling. A habit, as Emmanuel says, to know that everyone is a child of God. We are children of God. We are children of God. We reincarnated to learn to do good, and we will. Right, Rihanna? Thank you. We are together. Rihanna is saying we're working with a lot of people with serious illness. The lady was a nurse of 52 years old. Now, in her illness, 3 weeks in the hospital, she worked and helped there, even praying for those who are alone and dying. How beautiful, Rihanna. What a joy to know of this. Right, Robbie Brown? Welcome. Thank you, Silvio Otero. Thank you, Dulce Story, Lisa Teles, all of you friends. And let us refine ourselves, create new habits, noble habits, and do what you need to do. Thank you, friends, and until tomorrow, God willing.